if taking the mask off wasn't the end, but the beginning of finally finding love and belonging?
We've been masking for so long, but not even realizing it, until the mask hurts so much to keep it on that we're confronted with really looking at that mask and saying, what is that doing to, how is that serving me?
So, what does life really look like when you stop people pleasing and start protecting your peace? And how do you find the right people who love you for who you really are?
Fitting in is masking. Right?
Yes.
We are actually becoming more disconnected from ourselves the more we are quote unquote fitting in.
In this episode, you'll discover what happens when the mask is finally off, how to choose love without losing yourself, how to belong without burning out, and how to stop apologizing for being too much.
Because the truth is, you don't need to shrink to be loved. You don't need to mask to be worthy.
Now that the mask is off, navigating love, boundaries, and burnout as neurodivergent adults. Listen now.
Welcome to Empowering Women in Conversations, podcast to empower and uplift women by providing a safe space for them to share their stories and experiences and encourage the strength, resilience, and power of women. If you are tired of putting others' needs before your own, leading to burnout and resentment, and you are ready to transform and create relationships that are supportive rather than draining, join us on this journey of women overcoming adversities and achieving their true empowerment. Here's your host, a licensed professional counselor, Anita Sandoval.
For those who don't know Eric yet, he is a licensed clinical social worker, an ADHD coach, and the host of ADHD Rewired, one of the most loved podcasts, at least by me and many others I've heard, in the ADHD community. He brings this grounded, curious, and real approach to neurodivergence, and today you'll hear that firsthand. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And thank you for your patience with all of this scheduling stuff and ADHD showing up in all kinds of fun ways.
Oh, so fun. Whenever these things happen, I'm so compassionate because I feel like I'm being understood and validated. So, two peas in a pod here. I know last time we were talking about masking and unmasking, and I've noticed myself being more intentional in how I am being approached or approaching people whenever I go to a social gathering. And I don't know if it's the same for you. Have you noticed more people, I guess, in your community reach out to you more, talk to you more on recognizing their own masks or feeling that tension between authenticity and connection?
I think the more that people in the neurodivergent community even just get introduced to the whole idea of unmasking, right? It's because I think something that I hear so often and relate to very much is this idea that we've been masking for so long, but not even realizing it, until the mask hurts so much to keep it on that we're confronted with really looking at that mask and saying, what is that doing to, how is that serving me? How has that served me? And how is that hurting me?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also what was mentioned, at least for me, is that before I would come home and just be so burned out, I was just exhausted.
Yeah.
And now I am with my quirks. I went out with my girlfriends and it's called kicking axes. We throw axes.
Yeah.
I've never had that. And so for me it was sensory, and I forgot to bring my loops. And just the feeling of something heavy and throwing it and hearing the clink, it would just bounce back. And I'm just I'm just very sensory, and it's the noise. And I love exposure therapy, and they were just whatever you want. And I'm like, no, I'll at least do it once. And by the end of everything, I was able to throw it and be okay with it once in a while. But they were so welcoming, probably because they're also neurodivergent themselves. But I mean, I did not leave exhausted. And for me, that's when I noticed the difference between masking and unmasking and trying to belong. I know last session we talked about masking and people pleasing. both being subconscious and conscious level.
Mhm.
I know we've had some time from part 1 to part 2. How have you gotten insight or reflection on the difference between people pleasing and masking? I do know there's an overlap, but how do you see that?
I think the people pleasing is, I think we do it because of being too preoccupied about what other people think of us,
Yeah.
right? Where masking is where in some situations there may be some benefit to us to do that. I mean, it's like code switching, right? It's like if you can code switch in different settings, there can be some advantages to that.
Okay.
But it's like with all things like that, there's the other side of it as well. Like what's the cost to it? And I think for a lot of people, as we've been talking about, are starting to recognize the cost of this ongoing masking. And and I think especially too, once people start to experience sort of positive responses to taking up the mask, because they're finding other neurodivergent people who are just like them in different ways, there almost becomes this like refusal to even consider putting the mask back on. And I
Oh,
think
I
I'm
like
kind of there
that. Okay.
to a degree, where I'm just like there's certain things that I used to do, whether it's how I prepare meals or
Okay.
the way I work. And I think it kind of comes down to like the value of giving less shits about the stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yes, yes, yes. I have a shirt that I use for the gym that says, if I'm too much, then go find less. When you're neurodivergent, you know other neurodivergents. But if other neurodivergents do not manage or medicate their symptoms, it may exasperate other people's neurodivergent symptoms. And so I'm very particular who I hang out with.
Yeah.
And if there's someone who's a neurodivergent and refuses to admit that they are, but the symptoms are there, one thing I like to say to people, like, oh, we're going to go here. I'm like, great, I'm not. And they're like, well, why? Because they want to people please and they want to go ahead and belong. And I'm like, no, I'm protecting my peace. They look at me like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it takes a lot of work for neurodivergents to really hone in intentionally and manage their nervous system and their brain to work effectively. At least mine for my prefrontal cortex, just to have an environment to mask and then
Yeah.
just like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the value of that, not just the self-awareness piece, but the self-acceptance that allows you then to communicate with those you are in community with about what your needs in a sense are,
Yeah.
I think is so important. I think between the last time we had a conversation and now my dad had passed away. And my dad was always so like did not want to acknowledge his disabilities. And my dad had a brain injury 30 years ago.
Oh,
And so he had an aneurysm in his brainstem. And if you know anything about the brain, that's a real bad place to have an aneurysm.
yeah.
And so he had 30 years of lots of challenges as a result of that. And the thing that I always tried to communicate with him and help him understand, and he just really had a hard time with grasping this, is that when you're in a space where you're being unsafe because your pride is getting in the way, because you don't want to use that cane or that walker, right? You're actually making everybody more uncomfortable, right? Because it's like because we're all holding our breath, waiting for him to fall, right? And like we would much rather have someone who's asking for help and it needs supports because it's like, all right, we understand what you need and that's fine. It's okay to need things. It's okay to need accommodations and assistance. So I think this whole like let me try to do it all on my own and make it look normal. Like it's one, I don't think any of us, whether it's a physical disability or neurodivergence, I don't think we're fooling anyone.
Yeah.
And it's
Wow.
just hurting ourselves and it's really hurting other people too by not owning our own stuff.
Do you feel that it would cause more burnout in that person?
Possibly. My dad, before his brain injury, was an extremely patient person. He was also a very athletic person.
Yeah.
And after this, he was also a very hard worker and kind of stubborn. So it's like those are like all of our good qualities. They're good qualities up to a point.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I do think it led to some to depression and some anger, which understandably. But yeah, it was hard to watch. It was hard to be sometimes like in whether it's being in the same room with him or going to a restaurant with him. It was just like there was a point many years ago where I thought like you're not allowed to come over unless you're coming over with your walker. Like it's not safe.
You mentioned a boundary, and if anything, a rule. So I know people tend to confuse boundaries and rules. Rules are only good if they're agreed upon. Boundaries is this is what I'm going to do if this doesn't happen or if this does happen. And you mentioned, look, this is a rule in my house. You don't have to agree upon it, but I'm setting a boundary. I am not going to allow you in here. But the rule is if you do come in here, I need a walker for you to
Use it.
yeah, for you to use it. He's like, I got it. Here you go.
The number of times I would see him go from like one area of his place to, without the walkers. Well, I'm just going to get them. Like, so I don't care if we were going as 5 steps away. Like you have balance issues. Use
Yes.
the walker. I mean, when he was younger, when I was younger, it was just a few years after his I think it was like 4 or 5 years after his injury. I came home from college one day and my dad has balance issues because of the brain injury. And he was on the roof cleaning the gutters.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So, and it's just like, oh my gosh, is that feeling like, and maybe it is different with an acquired disability. I don't know. Like I speculate
Yeah.
because like growing up neurodivergent, even though I didn't know I was neurodivergent, it's kind of like the lens that I was looking at the world through is all I've ever known.
Yeah. And not knowing that there's something else. I like how you said that. Living in my childhood home, it's interesting because my husband saw it and he told me, we didn't know anything else. And it just broke me because I didn't even realize, yeah, you're right. Here I was putting myself down thinking, I don't know what social behaviors are, but they didn't either, one neurodivergent to another.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for my side of the relatives, they chose to stay with the whole, it's just this thing like, oh, they just want attention. They're just spoiled. There's nothing wrong. There's diagnoses of this doesn't exist unless it's something severe like schizophrenia. But other than that, ADHD, ¿qué es eso? Es un niño chiflado. Like, doesn't exist.
I hear that, and it's a common trope, but ADHD, in a sense, it is actually severe if you look at what are the ripple effects in our lives that the ADHD causes. One of them being it is a disorder that shortens lifespan
Yeah.
more than most of the leading health risks in the world. Like, more than the smoking or obesity or diabetes. And because people with ADHD are more likely to be smokers and have diabetes and not take care of their health and engage in risky behaviors where they can get hurt or killed. Like drug use, alcohol use, and doing it excessively. All higher with ADHD.
Yeah. And, the other comments I hear is, oh, they just have a weak mind. Wow.
I mean, weak executive functioning, sure, but like that's just one part of the mind.
Exactly. So when they say, oh, you know what, it's because I have ADHD. Okay, but that doesn't excuse the behavior.
Right.
You're in charge of that. And I want to bring this up early on and use this throughout with your community, which is your accountability and community group. Because I know the holidays are coming. I'm hearing boundaries. I'm hearing ADHD, executive functioning, substance abuse. You're having an important registration right now coming up.
Yeah.
Can you please talk about that?
So I do these coaching and accountability groups. They're intensive online. We meet 3 times a week in a group of up to 16. They're typically around 12 people. And then during the 3rd week, we actually assign within that group accountability teams. So in addition to meeting 3 times a week, we also people meet in accountability teams outside a group and also check in a couple times a week over like a group chat, just like, all right, what are my top 3 like priorities for the day? Right. And then checking in a couple times during the day. And I'll tell you the reason that I started these groups, I started these 11 years ago before anyone was doing any of this kind of stuff online.
Yeah.
Like because the reason I started doing this is I was seeing a therapist for some of my own ADHD stuff. And I would see this therapist once a week. And I would get to the therapist's office 20, sometimes 30 minutes early. So I could do the homework of my therapy homework that I was supposed to be doing all week. And it was frustrating because I'd be thinking about it all week, but I could not get myself to actually do it unless that like having to check in about it was right around the corner, right? Which speaks to that time horizon piece with ADHD. And so I was looking online, like I'm like, I need someone to check in with more frequently, and there's nothing. So I'm like, all right, what would actually be helpful for me? And so I created what would have been helpful for me. And it's so funny too, like the things we don't even realize until like hindsight. Like, I didn't even realize I was starting a whole other business. Like, I'm a clinician, I'm a therapist. And I started this podcast not with a clear vision about what I was doing, just like I wanted to get my ideas out there more. My son was recently diagnosed with autism, and I was like, I got to do something that can create opportunities so I don't have to be concerned about a financial constraint limiting what I could provide for my son and any kind of therapy or education services that he may need. And so I kind of just like in total ADHD, the idea of this group, so when I first started my podcast, it was a solo show. I would kind of make outlines and talk about different topics. And I don't know what made me think about it. It's probably because I just maybe got back from like one of these therapy appointments that I've been frustrated about not doing my homework at. So I impulsively said while recording, like, I think I'm gonna try to do these groups, and I'll have more information next week. I'm like, well, it's in the recording. I guess I'll leave it in, and then I'll try to figure it out now that I'm putting it out there. And then for like 8 weeks, I was like trying to figure this out. I was like, what can of worms did I just open for myself? Right? Because there was no one doing this. So I didn't have a model for this at all. And so we did the first one. It was actually not even on Zoom. It was on a platform called Uber Conference. Have you ever used that?
No.
So basically, it looks like Zoom sort of, except you don't actually see video. You just see the squares of who's talking, like someone's name, or like you'll show a map of the location.
Okay.
So we did, and it was 12 weeks, 4 times a week, and we didn't even have a set schedule. We decided each week, like, all right, when are we all available? I'm like, oh my God, it's the most ADHD way to do that. And I was like, okay, that doesn't make sense. I'm not doing it that way again. So like every season, we're now doing registration for the 42nd season of doing these. So I've had over 1,200 people go through this program.
Wow.
And part of growth, feedback is such an important part of that. So every season we do exit surveys. We also do like mid-group surveys throughout. So we do a couple. And so we're always getting feedback, tweaking, iterating. And so, we're at the 42nd season. I think I'm trying to remember what it was. It's like I've clocked something like 2,000 hours of like doing group coaching.
Wow.
And it's amazing because of the impact that it really has. It's especially for people who are maybe new to ADHD or have been kind of like white knuckling it.
Yeah.
And just it's not working for them.
Yeah.
And because so many ADHDers carry so much shame around stuff around ADHD.
Yes.
I don't think there is any one-on-one scenario that can really hit at that shame in a more healing therapeutic way than a group setting. Because it's one thing to if you're hiring a coach, you're hiring a therapist, and they express to you that yes, lots of people with ADHD experience these things. Okay, yeah, I'm hiring this person to say that to make me feel better, right? But when your peers are all not only like expressing similar challenges, but also have these amazing strengths, and you see them like not giving themselves credit for what they're doing well and just being really hard on themselves for the things they're struggling with.
Yeah.
Right. And then they're like, well, you're being so hard on yourself. And then they start to realize, oh, wait a minute. So am I. Yeah. And there's something about doing this in a peer setting that allows you to sort of take off the armor and really show up in a vulnerable way. And that's where the real growth happens. It's about being vulnerable. It's about being able to say, like, yeah, this is, I'm not really sure why this was hard for me, but I want to explore it. And just the power of that me too that we get in a group or community experience.
That sense of belonging is just beautiful because we want to belong. And I'm very blessed to be doing these podcasts. So I'm able to meet with like-minded people like yourself, but not everybody has that luxury. And the fact that I know this stuff and we're ready to just share it. and help others to know that you don't have to be shamed. And
Yeah.
I think when I mentioned the story in part one about that mother who found out her daughter was neurodivergent and said, "Oh my gosh, how did I not know this?" with that shame. For me, it was more of the fear of she's going to feel the shame because she's ADHD and I don't want her to.
Right.
And so having these type of groups and community, instead of feeling that sadness for your child of their ADHD and what if they feel that shame and rejection, hey, look at this group. Look at this accountability group or this coaching group, this place where they can embrace you, get to know about your ADHD in a non-shaming way, in a non-judgmental way, and therefore you can see, as at least for a parent, the ADHD diagnosis for your child or growing young adult, and that it's okay. We may have a weak executive functioning, but we can work on how we can strengthen it. I was just wanting to add that because for me, it wasn't more of like, how did I not know this? It was more like, oh my gosh, she's gonna feel this. She's gonna have these things. And now for me, she has there's this thing called Outbound, and this is for under 18 years old. And they have all these classes, and she takes an executive skills class with a teacher, and they have their degrees and everything for little kids and curriculum. And she goes there every single week. Didn't think anything of it. And I tend to do my own things. And one time we did a DIY with a friend play date. And I tell her, look, this is called body doubling. So whenever you want to do some work, because I know she likes to stitch and crochet, and she left that for a while. So I did a play date and we talked about body doubling and what it means. She's like, huh, I learned that in my executive skills class, she goes. And she's like, I didn't think anything of it. And I'm like, but do you see how you're feeling more motivated now finishing it? She's like, yeah.
And
See
during
that?
COVID is when I launched the adult study hall community. It's a whole separate membership community just for
Okay.
co-working.
No.
And it's something that we actually do in the coaching groups.
Okay.
And anyone who joins our coaching groups can also have access to all of the co-working stuff that we do because it's like, I don't know, like shockingly effective. Like
Yeah.
it's strange because it's like they're not really doing much of an interaction, but yet being on screen with other people who are working, like when you're working on this thing and it starts to hit that point of either boredom or challenge where you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And you look up because you're about to go do some kind of distraction and you see other people working, it keeps you focused. It really does.
I noticed you said something. Oh, I noticed in your website it said something like 24/7, something like that. What is the 24/7?
So one of the Zoom rooms that we have, it's a basically a 24/7 room. It's a quiet co-working room. So like I have a setting where you can't unmute yourself. So you just come in, you share what you're working on in the chat and you work. We have other sessions that are facilitated. So there maybe we'll do stuff like, all right, what's your goal for the next hour? We'll set a timer and then we'll do a quick check-in. And I know some people in my community, the event will say it's like from like 12 to 2. They start at 12 and then they are in there all day long working, like, which is, I think, amazing. It's very cool that a lot of people have really realized how helpful it is and then create their own sessions within our communities to be able to say, you know what, this actually helps me when I'm actually like in charge in a sense of showing up to run this, because then there's that additional accountability. So a lot of people have kind of discovered that. And it's like all things strategy wise, I would say try it. I think it works for lots of people with ADHD. I also know it doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? And but definitely try it because I think it's really effective.
Oh yeah. If I see it in my little girl, and no por nada, like for me, I get exhausted as a mother, being entrepreneur, of having my private practice, being sports mom, and to know that somebody else out there is doing something for me, like the executive skills teacher is like, boom, takes a load off of me. And it helps so much. And so when you go into this community, not only are you learning for yourself, but you might be learning for your child too on things that you can do. And it just helps inside out.
Yes. I mean, even when I used to work with kids in my clinical practice, I was primarily working with the parents.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like I can get your kid to behave in my office. Like that's not my concern. Like my concern is how are they doing at home? How are they doing at school? Like you need more of that, like not getting into power struggles kind of thing. Like, because what's that expression? It's arguing with a kid with ADHD is like mud wrestling a pig. You both get dirty, but only the pig enjoys it.
Especially if they have PDA.
Right? Or ODD. Yep.
Oh my gosh, I just had that happen recently with my patient. And we mentioned ground rules with play therapy. And of course, PDA comes in and they're like, let me test these. And so pick your battles, parents, pick your battles. It is what it is.
And it's hard sometimes. My training was very sort of behavioral based. Like
Okay.
I was trained in ABA stuff, and so like there's definitely been times where I've had to like check that at the door with my son because like I mean he's kind of just like me in so many ways. So it's like I know the power struggles aren't gonna win.
No.
It's just gonna end up we're both frustrated with each other, and so I have learned with him like being playful to redirect him is way more effective than telling him to you need to be respectful. That was rude, right? It's like
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Telling a neurodivergent what to do, it's like, no, don't even go there, especially if they have PDA. And one of the things, because I feel like my daughter has some of that, the other neurodivergent one, she's like, okay, lovey-dovey, everything, right? Not the other one. The other one's like, oh my Lord. And so I'll be like, you know what? This is the planner. This is this is that. And I had to just sit down and have a talk. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I mean, I'll let you set the reminders. I'll tell you this much, but you do the rest. Now, if you want to fail, that's fine by me. If you think your friends are going to follow you to the next grade level, keep on thinking that they will. But this is your choice. Like ultimately, not mine. I'd rather you fail now and not later, but this is your choice. Whatever you want to do. Try it. If it works, great. If you don't want to try, if it doesn't work, fine. And because she was like, it's not going to work. And da, da, da. And I'm like, fine. And just let her be. And for the first time, she goes, Mom, I got 100 on my math exam. And I was like, yes, because we take the extra time every day in the planner. What did you learn? What is it you're working on? Let's dedicate at least 15, 20 minutes on relearning that. And it was such a headache. And before, it was like, fine, you don't want to, fine, let's see what you get. And she would get a failing grade.
it's interesting. Something that I've experienced that can work with some demand avoidant kids is if they're kind of having oppositional responses to stuff, don't say your direction. And like, if they have a phone, text it to them or literally write it on a piece of paper so they can't verbally take what you just said and throw it back at you.
No. Wow. I'm going to try that. Even in my sessions. Ooh, I'm going to do that. I can see that. I can see that working out.
And doing kind of like a little bit of that, like the I don't know if I would say it's Socratic questioning, but like for example, I was looking at my son's grades online, and there was one that was like, "Ooh, this is a little bit lower than I think it should be," but I didn't address it that way. I just asked him, "Hey, when was the last time you checked your grades online?" That's right. Because if I would have just said, "Hey, why do you have a C plus in this class right now?" Like there wouldn't be much productive out of there.
Yep. I love it. Let them connect the dots. Let
Yes.
them build the bridge. I love that one.
That's such an important point too, and I think for any like growth oriented relationship you might be in,
Yeah.
that gift of allowing so you're basically creating the environment that allows them to connect the dots
Mhm.
is such an important, I think, kind of component to growth and connection and respecting someone's autonomy and self-determination.
Yes.
And I always tell this to people in my groups, they're like, look, there's so many times where there's 5 different solutions I could think of that I think would probably help you, but
Mhm.
I'm not going to take away the gift of allowing you to discover,
Mhm.
right? Because it's like you might think you want to be told what you should do. Like I'm telling you, you don't, because like it's about let's try these. I'm going to support you on how do we evaluate how this is working for you. I'm going to support you on deciding how do we tweak different things, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you the answers and I'm not going to give you the formula because one of the problems with sort of this formula idea
Yeah.
is that they are one of the ingredients. And so I can't give them a formula being that they're one of the ingredients. They have to make it their own.
Yeah.
And so it's sometimes at first for some people that can feel frustrating. They're like, just give me the answer. It's like,
Yes.
I'm actually helping you learn and making that learning way deeper by not and letting you sit a little bit and struggle with
Yeah.
giving you the right support
Yeah.
through that.
Yes. Oh my God. Thank you for saying that. That is the most beautiful thing that is something I try to tell people. Let them struggle. Age appropriate, developmental wise type of
Right.
struggle. Your community, I want to say that what you're building within the registration, they're gonna struggle. There's no set formula, I'm assuming, but there is a type of guidance.
Right. I mean, we
Uh,
have a curriculum. I mean, our groups are very, very structured, right? But
yes.
within that, the structure, there is a lot of space for exploration. And I always tell people, like, hey, if you don't like my worksheets, make your own version of it. If you
Oh
don't like
yeah.
this, or it's so interesting too how many people come in and they want to try to like get the maximum out of every single exercise.
Yeah.
And I'm like, learning science would say that's not the best idea. And it takes people a while to kind of let certain things go. And I always encourage people to, and it's one of the exercises we basically do is we have people fill out this like getting ready like handout that we have post in the community. It
Okay.
says, hey, why did I join? Like what are the things I'm trying to address? What are the habits I'm trying to change?
Yeah.
And we'll keep referring them back to that and say, look, you can change your mind on those things, but like keep coming back to your why.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? 'Cause I think it's
Always.
so important. Otherwise, we get, especially as ADHDers, we get very much in the whatever's right in front of us is what we're focusing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Oh
what's
yeah.
right in front of us isn't actually that important to us. Like in the big picture of what we're working on right now,
Yeah.
isn't the most pressing need. So I tell people like it's okay, like get familiarity with this stuff, but don't worry about it. Like if this isn't an issue for you, you
Yeah.
don't need to spend time on this.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so you have your program, and I know we talked about masking, unmasking, neurodivergence. This podcast is basically women who are, people pleasers and wanting to become empowered. My question to you is, let's assume they take the membership, they go through this journey. Everybody learns differently, has a different growth mindset.
Mhm.
How would they look like in this everyday life? Because they're envisioning something in their head. Like, if I take this, I'm going to be like ABC. It's like in therapy, they come in thinking, you're going to tell me the issues and problem solved, I'm healed.
I'm cured, right? Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I know.
I always tell people one of my kind of the only guarantees that I make in my program is that they'll still have ADHD at the end of the program. Right? Because I want people to understand, like, we're not curing anything,
Yeah.
right? We are learning how to live life in a way that works for our brain. And
Yeah.
part of what that means is learning how to bend the world to us, not
Mhm.
the other way around, because the
Mhm.
world doesn't bend towards us. Like,
Yeah.
I wish it did. I wish the world was more accommodating.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that we spend a lot of time on is kind of that role of self-advocacy of how do I speak up for what I need? How do we address conflicts in our teams? Like I tell people like healthy conflict matters.
Yeah.
Like don't avoid like if
Yes.
if someone said that they were going to do something and they didn't do it, address it. Like
Mhm.
don't be mean about it, but express how it made you feel because you have every right to do that. Like it was frustrating when you said you were going to check in with me and that didn't happen. Like what's going on? And like was that to try to just get to address the issue collaboratively. Some of our like closest relationships, like are they close relationships because we've never had conflict, or are they close relationships because we've effectively solved conflict?
People pleasing. Yes. Oh my
Right? Because
God.
Anita, I used to think that I had a great marriage because we never fought.
Oh.
Right. And just to only to learn like, oh, we were both extremely conflict avoidant. Right. And
Mm.
anytime I would like bring something up and then she would have an emotional response to what I was bringing up, then I would backpedal and say, oh, no, never mind. Like it's fine. That was, and I actually realized in recent years doing a lot of my own healing work that that was kind of how my dad was. Like, cause
Mhm.
I don't really have a relationship with my mom anymore, but my dad was kind of like the safety, the rock, like in my family growing up. But he was also like very conflict avoidant and just wanted to keep the peace with everyone. And I kind of realized that sort of later in life. And it's like, oh, like maybe he was also part of the issue as well.
Yeah, because see, when you have one narcissist person, their bread and butter is a people pleaser. People
Mhm.
pleasers and narcissists go together like two peas in a pod. And so whenever I see a narcissist and their partner is more than likely a people pleaser. And that's exactly what that is. And we as children grow up thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening? And then we think that that's the right way. It's programming. It's nothing we did wrong. It's just all that we
Right.
were shown. Learning how to self-advocate, that's huge. But then going through that barrier with ADHD of rejection sensitive dysphoria, how does your community help with that?
Well, I think just the value of knowing that the community gets it and members of the
Yeah.
community get it. And a lot of times in the ADHD space, people are sort of they're grasping for ways to be more consistent, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's a sort of like trope of ADHD, like the only thing that's consistent about ADHD is that we're inconsistent, right? So if
Yeah.
you're not ADHD, but you know someone that is, and you're like, wait, but they did it before, why can't they do it again? It's because they have
Yes.
ADHD. Like that's
Yeah.
part of how ADHD works. And yes,
Yeah.
it's even more frustrating for us as it is
Yeah.
for you living with the ADHD, right?
Yeah.
Part of what we talk about is let go of focusing on consistency, because I think that consistency is a lagging indicator. I think let's focus on resilience. Let's focus on getting back up when we've slipped. When the thing that we've been doing and doing well that's been really helpful for us and really working, suddenly we realize, oh wait, we haven't done that in 3 weeks. Like the whole part where you beat yourself up about it for 2 weeks, you can like
Yeah.
skip that part and just say, all right, like I slipped. What's step
Yeah.
one to get back on track? And I
Yeah.
think that one of the things that I think that my program really has fostered so well is that resilient spirit, is that
Okay.
getting back up, is that coming back to that where people feel confident in, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I know I'm gonna slip. It's okay.
Yeah.
Accepting isn't like, yay, I love all the things about ADHD. Accepting is I understand what I have to do to navigate life and to create the life that I want to create.
Yep. Yep.
And that often involves taking the mask off.
Oh, that's something else people assume being empowered and resilient is that you have to be strong all the time. They're like, oh no, we have to be strong and not cry. We have to be strong and not mess up. And I'm like, are you kidding? The person who's the strongest, most resilient, and empowered is the one who can cry, the one who does admit of their failures and their wrongdoing
Yeah.
in front of people. And that's what you're teaching your community. Like, hey, I can mess up. Hey,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can cry. I don't have to have it all together all the time.
Right. Yeah. No, that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah. You know, when we mess up, we're like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What's one truth? Because I do it all the time too. What's one truth that's helped you to stop, I guess, over apologizing? Because I get it. Apologizing is amazing, awesome when it needs to be. But I do notice that a lot of ADHDers or ADHDers, neurodivergent people tend to apologize for their behavior. What has helped you to help stop apologizing just for who you are?
Up into that very last part of the question, I was going one way in my head, and then like, wait, that's a little bit of a different question. It was I think 2 seasons ago when one of my groups, I was late for one of my sessions, and I'm just like 2 minutes late. But I was like, it was like I think it was in the first week still, and I have the importance of like modeling what we're trying to expect from our members. And I was apparently very apologetic. And one of our peer mentors, so our groups, we have a couple of peer mentors, so they're alumni that have gone through the program that come back and basically are like helpers. And so one of the peer mentors, we call him admin with 2 Ds, so ADD, MIN.
I love it.
After the session was over, she asked if she can talk to me for a sec, and she asked permission to offer some feedback. And I was like, sure. Like, I think you were a little overly apologetic about being late. Like, I think not only was it unnecessary, I think it's actually models something that you're not wanting to model. And I was like, that was not only did I love the way you set up the asking permission to give feedback, the way you did it was like so beautiful, and I was able to really hear that, and it was so appreciated.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, and it still gets sometimes. It's like,
Yeah.
I think too, because like I used to be so time blind. Like, I mean,
Still am.
5 years of college, I never made it to a class on time. I'm not even kidding you. Like, no joke. Like, it's like 5 minutes late for every class, all my entire college. Right? So like, I worked so hard at being able to do it. So like, when it like I'm late for something, I'm like, oh, it's kind of all that past stuff that is
Yeah.
associated with all
Yeah.
the times of being late. And but I do try to also, instead of apologizing, say, I do this more where I say, thank you for your
Yeah.
flexibility or thank you for your
Okay.
understanding.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm just like, thank you so much. And if they don't like how I'm late at times, then I'm not the one for you. And
Right.
that's okay. And
Yeah.
that's okay. I find it very interesting because people will wait hours at a doctor's office, but all of a sudden for an LPC or a therapist, it's like, oh, how dare I wait 10 minutes, 5 minutes? I'm like, same thing.
Think about contractors. Like, we'll be there sometime today, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Oh my
Just
goodness.
imagine if we did business like that.
¿Tú crees, plumbers? Oh, the internet. It's like, oh, well, between this time and this time. Wait on hold. That is too funny. I want to turn it around to something nicer. Where do you feel most accepted as your whole self and why?
Hmm. In neurodivergent spaces and in queer spaces. I mean,
Yeah.
and especially neurodivergent queer spaces.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
familiar with what's referred to as the double empathy problem?
You mentioned that, but please talk about it again.
So there's this false belief that people with autism aren't empathetic, right?
Yeah.
We just happen to show it differently.
Yes.
But what we really see is that the problem is when someone with autism, and it's not everyone, but someone with autism and a neurotypical person, like the inability to adapt towards each other is referred to that as the double empathy problem. But when you're with other neurodivergent people, there is just this knowing. It's like this big family reunion of people you maybe even never met before.
Yeah.
And it's like they're just like me. And it's just I go to and I speak at the International ADHD conference every year. And I've always loved like just the community aspect of being around so many ADHDers.
Yeah.
And then over the last couple of years, as I was starting to explore, like, oh wait, do I also maybe have autism? I was starting to connect with other ADHDers, people with
Yeah.
ADHD and autism. And I was much more intentional about it last year. And I was like, this is like on another level
Yeah.
of like just connecting and feeling understood and just being seen on a way that's like I've been having a lot of conversations about the differences lately between fitting in and acceptance,
Okay. Let's
right?
talk
Like
about that. I like
or
it.
not belonging. I'm sorry, fitting in and belonging.
Yeah.
So like fitting in is masking, right? We are
Yes.
actually becoming more disconnected from ourselves the more we are quote unquote fitting in,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
What we want to do is belong for who we are without having to try to be less of who we are or try to be more of something else,
Yeah.
right? When we can feel that sense of belonging because we're weird or because we're whatever, like, and people actually like us, not despite of it, but
Yeah.
because of it,
Yes.
like. And I think that for people who haven't experienced that and then they have that experience,
Yeah.
there's kind of this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like I never want to go back to the other way again. Like,
Yes.
and I think that's the power of group and community. It's like people often when they come into my program, they'll have to say intellectually they understood that group and community is supposed to be helpful,
Yeah.
but like, they'll have to say like they never really understood it until they were a part of it. And they'll say like, yeah, all the tools and the exercises that we do in group are really helpful, but there's nothing like the community. Like it's like honestly everything is secondary to community because it's that powerful.
Yeah, it's knowing being around like-minded people. I think even with therapy, high 70-80% success of therapy is that rapport, them just knowing you. Everything else, strategies, techniques, and skills, it's like second. But it's really the rapport of allowing that non-judgment of being you, and that's it. And I love how you said that sense of belonging. I have patients coming in telling me, tell me if you know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, and I tell them quite honestly, there's no right or wrong, good or bad. There just is what you want and what you need to do to get there, and whatever you do or do not do, there's no judgment. There just is your state of mind of happiness. And they want me to give them tips for people pleasing because that's what they want. They want to fit in a people pleasing society, but yet they come out learning the way I am is perfect. And it's not me that's the problem. It's where I'm hanging out with, finding the right type of people to see me the way I see myself. It's just unlayering that artichoke or peeling that onion to really just embrace oneself.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
You were asking something earlier about empowerment, and then you were talking about resilience. And I think we could all agree that being able to be resilient is a very valuable, important
Yeah.
skill to develop.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And and like all I think traits, things can be taken too far. I if someone asks me what's my superpower, I often say I'm a lemonade maker. Like I can turn lemons into lemonade. Like that's what I've always been very good at that. But now coming out of a little bit over a year of what I've now realized was autistic burnout,
Yeah.
recognizing that there's also, I think, something that we can call toxic resilience.
talk to me about that. You mentioned that to me, and I can see that in me because of growing up, of just having everything together all the
Like
time until I
pushing
burn
no
out.
matter what. It's no matter how tired you are, you're still gonna get, instead of saying what, reaching out to someone saying that deadline that I said I was gonna get, like it looks like I'm gonna need it another couple of days. Instead of doing that, you stay up all night, or you work way harder, or you cancel plans with friends, the things that like are supposed to make our life kind of worth living and enjoyable. You're doing
Yeah.
all that because you're so focused on just meeting the goals, hitting the deadlines, doing the stuff, right? Like
Oh,
it's, and I think that always going to be a place for sprinting, like it's going to happen, but sprinting should not be a lifestyle.
mm, I
I
like that.
because I used to work like the hours I used to work is I think about this now and I'm like I can't even imagine
I
doing
can't. Yeah.
like I used to work
Yeah.
80, 90 hours a week, like,
Yeah.
and now I'm like
Yeah.
32 about.
I know the
Right?
feeling.
Like I really wanted to get a podcast out on Friday.
Yeah.
I didn't. And I didn't bring it home. I wasn't playing it. I'm like, all right, it'll have to wait till Monday. Like I'm kind of done with this, like I'm killing myself to do
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have goals because it gives you a direction.
Yeah.
But like I think it's one of the values and misnomers about goals. You don't have to hit a goal per se.
Yeah.
The idea is it gives you focus.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just activity and movement. It doesn't matter which way you're going if you don't have a direction, right?
Yeah.
If you get there a little bit, it takes you a little bit longer, fine. Who cares? Like there's so many things in life that I think we're so hard on ourselves
Yeah.
around, and things don't need to be as hard as we make them.
Yes. It's about the journey, not the destination. And this is where in therapy we talk about parts work and their managers, the protector
Yes.
parts. And they're so gun-ho on the manager protector parts and firefighters that they forget their healthy self. And we focus on whatever happened to your healthy self. Where is it? Because that's the one that's supposed to lead, not the managers,
Yeah.
not the firefighters. And I have to always be in check with mine. Like, whoa, when has healthy self come out? And what is manager trying to protect against? Which exile? And going through therapy for that, because I know you're a therapist and you can help in therapy because that's different than coaching and the accountability. That is different. You can do the ADHD, but if you have a past trauma memory, that's where we go to therapy so that it won't be a block or have that toxic resilience, and we can work through that within therapy so that we can circumvent the ADHD symptoms a little easier.
Because I know for me, like my workaholism was birthed when I first got diagnosed with ADHD and started ADHD meds.
Yeah.
Because like I was always a very average student at best,
Yeah.
or I would like be in a deep hole, and then I would like do sprints to get myself out of that hole, and I would end up the semester is like average-ish, right?
Yeah.
But it was always hard for me to maintain that level of intensity. And then I started medication, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can actually like retain what I just read, and I'm not having to reread the same paragraph 100 times before it finally sinks in. And so I went from being a very C kind of student to basically mostly A's and a couple B's here and there. That success was such a drug to me for so long.
Oh, that dopamine rush.
Because I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
oh, like I'm not stupid. Like I actually can be successful. Like I finished grad school with a 4.0, and I also only slept like 2 hours a night.
It was bad.
Right.
I
And it's just like, I wish
know.
if I could go back in time, I would have chose to sleep more and do less and be
Yeah.
okay with not getting a 4.0.
And so for me, because I was born in a toxic household, I got married at 15 because I had a broken home, divorced by 21 as a single mom. I refused to be dependent on a man. And my mom was addicted to men. Men were addicted to little girls. And I was like, no, I'm not going to repeat that cycle. And so I remember when I went back to school, I got my GED and I was like, I'll live on welfare. I am not living on a man. I got my associates in 1 year, the bachelor's the other year, the master's the other year. That's
Wow.
how intense. Lived on Red Bull and candy because that was my self-medication, you
Red
know?
Bull candy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. Substituting and just doing whatever needed to be done to make sure I made enough money and had enough time for my education to provide for the children. And I was stuck on that it was functional then. But then the switch never turned off. I remember meeting my husband. I'm like, I don't need a man and we're just friends and I'm good. I have everything. And he's like, okay. And we just hung out and talked and just allowed me to be me. And I remember when he proposed and was going to get a house, I'm like, but I don't want to live with a man. Like, I'm good where I'm at. And I'm like, I don't want you to tell me what to do. I don't want to cook and clean and do it. He's like, did I ever ask you to? And I was like, well, no. He's like, okay. And I was just like, oh, I go, well, I got to ask my kids because they come first. And it's like, go ahead. And of course, they loved him. And my son was like, are you going to be like those mean stepdads on Lifetime movies? He's like, have I ever treated you like that? He's like, well, no. And it's like, okay, you can marry him, mom. And so we got married. And to this day, one of the main things of the issues is, woman, ask me for help, let me in. And it was a lot. And I call it delegating. And so now I'm like, okay, we need to see what you can do, what I cannot do. But he knows my toxic resilience at times, that if it goes, it's hard to shut off. But he knows the prompts already, and to be like, no, have you noticed this about yourself? And if you continue this, you're going to burn out. And I'm like, oh, I didn't see that. Thank you for saying that.
It's like our stubborn inner toddler. It's me do it. Me do it.
Oh my
Like
gosh,
when it's something you
yes.
clearly like need help on, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like your community would help that, knowing that everybody who's gone through that toxic resilience be like, hey, have you noticed this? Because I'm lucky to have my husband, but not everybody has partners. And here they can have a community to be like, hey, have you noticed this behavior, that behavior? Because neurodivergents can't really see their own of where we're at. By the time I do it, it's
Well,
too late.
it was my seeing parts of myself in my own community of members who were also ADHD
Okay.
was one of the big sort of like data points for me where I was like, wait, I think that I have more than just ADHD, because I kept
Yeah.
relating so much to some of the things that ADHD members were
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh. And I almost wonder on a subconscious level, like, have I been attracting more ADHDers to my community just because of who I am? And it's funny, people who I've talked to who are following the podcast for years and like I think they thought that I knew I was also autistic. I was
Yeah.
like, no. So some of the things that I talk about with like sensory things, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, we thought for sure you were autistic. Like, oh, because I used to think that like the sensory stuff was just the things that the ADHD things that people with ADHD don't really talk about, or the ADHD community doesn't talk about
Yes.
like enough. Like,
Yes.
oh, maybe it's because a lot of the sensory things are actually more autism than ADHD.
Yes. And that's me when you mentioned it, and when we were collaborating that 15-minute first, I was like, huh. And then I attended an EMDR in subtle autism in adults and screeners, and I'm like, oh, that makes a lot more sense. And then I learned ADHD is an executive functioning issue. Autism is a sensory processing issue. And I'm like, oh,
Definitely a Venn diagram there, though. There's
for sure.
overlap in that.
For sure.
Because I think like one of the most complex executive functions is actually that social executive function. That
Oh,
to be
yes.
able to, because so much of that is being able to adapt and reprioritize stuff on the fly, right? Like reprioritizing is not necessarily one of our best skill sets. And to be able to have to do that so quickly and to be able, because our task switching neural network isn't so good, which is why if we're interested in stuff, we can focus for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Oh, yes. That's yes, because the TPN, the task positive network, and of course the default mode network of like, oh, this is all your information, but you got to focus on this. But all this information, we're just gonna cram it in there while you're trying to do this ABC type of deal. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
I tell people when they talk about that, because like I never finish anything because like I'll be working on this and then I'm like, oh yeah, I got to work on that. Like, stop giving candy to the screaming toddler at the grocery store, because that's basically every time you're working on something and an irrelevant thought gets your attention and you're like, oh, I gotta go do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You are reinforcing that mechanism that your brain is sending you these ill-timed messages.
Yeah.
It's like, capture it,
Yeah.
write the thought down, but then stay focused on what you were doing. Don't allow yourself to go down the, oh, I got to do this so I don't forget it. Like, no, write it down now so you don't forget it. Just stay focused on what you're doing.
Yes, I write it down. What is my focus? And then I have the timer you recommended with the yellow, green, and red light. My husband's like, is it on? I'm like, it's on. And so even if I lose, like I say squirrel, I just write the word squirrel. And then I look at what it is I'm supposed to work on next to the timer and I get to that. And that's the only thing it gets me because forget it. And because I am sensory, I have to put on white noise or the loops. I have to shut down some senses so that I don't get overstimulated while focusing. But only the task stuff that I don't like. If it's stuff like editing this podcast or anything with my entrepreneur, oh my gosh, I can be there all day and I'll be like, I have kids. Oh my gosh, I have kids.
Well, I mean, I've been back to editing my own podcast this last year, but for the majority of my podcast, I had an editor, because what I found is I enjoyed doing the editing, and it would take me 10 hours to edit an episode because I was like doing stuff that I knew didn't matter, but like it was like, because I can do this, I want to try to do this. Like I was like just trying to get like the ideal sort of like sound sort of profile for different people's voices, and like I would like literally go and like listen to it in different environments. I would like put it on in my car, I would put it on a stereo, I would put it just on my phone, like just to try to get that, because I hear lots of things that people don't hear, which is like part of my auditory processing disorder. So it's like it does have some advantages.
Yeah.
But I also am like, I'm spending 10 hours doing this. This is not worth my time. Like this is not something I should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get it. I have to do a checklist of only the things that I have to do on editing, because then if not, I'll go down that rabbit hole and I'm like, is this necessary? Will it get me more likes? If not, then I'm like, no, because then I'll burn out. I will burn out. But I love it. So now we talked about the toxic resilience, burning out. I want to talk about that whole unmasking and authenticity. How do you define authenticity as a neurodivergent person?
I think it's that old Frank Sinatra song, "Can Do It My Way."
Yes. Oh, my favorite.
Right? Like I sometimes will sort of jokingly say that I'm like proudly unemployable, right? Because like I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not, right?
Yeah.
I know where I need to get support, where I need to get help. I know for the things that I need to do, like, but I need to do stuff that makes sense for my brain.
Yeah.
And sort of unapologetically, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember if we talked about this before, but many years ago, I was working with an ADHD coach, and one of the things I was struggling with, like, and this is a common struggle with lots of ADHDers, is returning phone calls.
Oh, yes.
And it would just like nag at me, and I was so frustrated with myself. I was like, people want to like hire me, like, why am I not calling them back? Like, and I would think about it, and then it was like, or I would forget about it for a day or two, and then I remember, like, oh, it's been 3 days. Oh no! And now it's like in this like paralysis of, and so through the coaching, we discovered that like, well, I'm really good if something is on my calendar, like I'll follow.
Okay.
You're like, well, you put your
Yes.
calls in your calendar, like usually, like, well, what if on your voicemail message you actually tell people to not leave you a message and to schedule a call with you through your website?
Okay.
And so at first I was kind of nervous to do this,
Okay.
But I ended up doing it, and I have not looked back since.
Oh, I like that.
It's actually funny. It's one of the discovered. I used to think it was like my own like oppositional stuff, but
Yeah.
I understand it more as PDA.
Yes.
I remember there was one person that called and left me a message. They're like, I heard your message. I understand you're probably not going to call me back.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have access to a computer. So here's kind of why I'm calling. If you're coming back, awesome. If not, I totally get it.
Yeah.
And because I didn't feel like there was this like expectation,
Yes.
what do you think I did right after I heard that message?
Call them back, of
I
course.
called them right back. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And it's those kinds of moments where it's like, when we had this, huh, why did
Yeah.
that work? Like, I love those moments.
I
Right?
love that. Yes. You learn more about yourself, growth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Stumbling into what works.
Yeah. And then we're going into the holidays right now. So expectations, PDA, neurodivergence, what sensory or social challenges do you feel would come up during the holidays, and how would you manage that or honor that?
And there's a number of ways I can, I mean, I think of one is like, how do you feel being around your family? Is it like all work and no pleasure? Maybe limit
Yeah.
the amount of time. Like, and
Yeah.
will people be upset? Maybe.
Yeah.
But like, is it worth the impact it has in your nervous system to put yourself through that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, have plans for easy outs, and for like have a plan for how you're going to leave something, or go on vacation if you can, or just tell people you're on vacation and then to have a staycation.
Staycation.
Right?
Yes.
Like the pressure of the holidays, I think, is so challenging
Yeah.
for so many reasons. I mean, I know people who actually will shop all year round just to avoid having to go to the stores during the holidays,
Yes.
which is kind of brilliant, but you got to be able to keep track of who you bought what
Yeah.
for who. Like,
Yeah.
otherwise you're like all these things that you have in random places. Like,
Yeah.
oh, who did I get this thing for?
Yes, post-it notes on it, but I have an Excel sheet. That's what I do throughout the year, because forget it. I hate shopping. Online, I love it. Thank God for online shopping now, but it's just like people,
Even like with Thanksgiving coming up, something that I've done the last 2 years. Thanksgiving used to be like my favorite holiday.
My daughter's favorite holiday.
And for me, it's because it's literally, it's just about food.
Yeah.
It's nothing else. There's no religion involved. There's
Yeah.
no like, it's just about food.
Being grateful. Yeah.
Right. And to the one thing I kind of do miss about my mom is she was a very good cook. And so like I miss the Thanksgiving food. So I always feel kind of like, since I have sort of cut contact, every time a holiday comes up where historically there was good food, I always feel kind of a little bit sad about that.
Yeah.
When I was kind of going through this sort of transition of like spending less time with my family, and or I'm just like, it's just not worth it to me anymore.
Yeah.
So last 2 years they're not sponsoring us, but Whole Foods catering for Thanksgiving. Because you can literally cater for 2 people, and it's
Wow.
wonderful. I truly, because I was just like, you know what, I'm busy with work. Like, I don't like, as much as I like the idea of like having this home cooked meal and like
Yeah.
this, I've accepted letting that go.
Yeah.
And like, we can have a nice meal and eat more than we meant to and enjoy it, and not have to cook.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Or maybe you cook one thing and you get,
Yeah.
and that's how I do anything I'm making. Like, I'm like dinner, like maybe I'll make my protein, but then my side is something I can just microwave. Right.
Yeah.
It's like an easy thing.
Oh, look at you being all compromising and negotiating. I love that. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. How do you walk away without apology or guilt? Compromise. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to not do? And how you do one thing is how you do everything. Because if you practice that even in food, you can practice that even with family.
Yeah. Instead of like, I mean, if you're hosting,
Yeah.
and the amount of dishes that have to be done
Yeah.
is just exhausting.
Yeah.
So what if you get the fancy disposable plates?
Yeah.
Like, they're brilliant, because I've seen ones that, like, I didn't even realize they were like disposable plates at first. And it's like, clean up is just getting the big garbage bag, going around the table, and done. Like,
Yes.
nobody cares about your fine china. I'm sorry. Like,
No, it's the food.
when, when and when I was married and we registered for stuff, all those crystal glasses, they've literally, I think, been used one time. All right, now they're just in my basement in like a padded box. Like it's silly. It's like, yeah, that's what my grandparents did. Like this isn't important to for
Yeah.
a lot of people of my generation.
No.
Like we just want to be together and like, do things our way.
Oh, I love this. I want you to tell people where they can connect, what's new, what's coming up, any recent group themes, coaching pods, anything that you're excited to share in your
Yes.
community.
So our fall coaching group starts October 23rd, but we have a registration event on October 9th. And just check, and I even have on my calendar, but this is actually not even on my website. It's an if need be registration event on October 14th. But check the website, ADHD Rewired. I always have the dates and everything, all the details on there on the coaching group page. Check out the podcast. I also have my adult study hall community. All of those things will be found at ADHDrewired.com.
And a quick heads up, usually, I know last part one, I asked you one question that I usually like for my audience to kind of sit in and reflect in with my guest answering. So if all your work was lost, anything that you ever did,
Okay.
and in 3 generations, they found a letter from you, what truth would you bestow in this letter to help that family relative continue this path of empowering other women?
Okay.
And if they're neurodivergent, we add that in there.
I would say don't wait till later to do what you want to do. And don't wait till later to do what you want to do. And you'll regret more of the things you didn't do versus the things you did do, even if it doesn't work out. Yeah, so go after it, take a chance. And any hard failure or hardship that you can think about from your past, the one thing they all have in common is you got through it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of taking on challenging things.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And to everyone listening, you don't need to shrink to be loved. You don't need to mask to be worthy. Your authenticity is not too much because you are enough. Keep unmasking and keep walking toward the version of you that feels most empowered and real.
Thanks for listening to Empowering Women in Conversations. This conversation has ended, but your journey to empowerment continues. Please share with someone you know who will find this conversation helpful and inspiring. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Until our next empowered conversation with your host, licensed professional counselor, Anita Sandoval. And remember, we are brave. We are strong. We are compassionate. We are women empowered. Go out there and claim your power.